exist. We're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Penguins. Speaking of sometimes a gong show that doesn't make sense. We'll talk about Teddy Blueger. We'll get into the Penguins' trade targets. We will, of course, talk about Zach Aston Reese, Evgeny Malkin, and I think what you've seen the last couple games last night. I find myself in a little bit of the minority. I find myself very much in a minority right now. The Penguins media last night was very positive about the game. The four questions posed to Sullivan, and I cringe sometimes when I'm this far out of step. Hey, Matt Cullen had his best game, don't you think? Hey, your defense has only allowed 2 goals in 2 games. They're playing really well, don't you think? And I was like, hang on now. Actually, I think the defense has played very well. But team defensively, that's an entirely different story. But I see a lot of people catching over. Happy Valentine's Day, Alexander. Let me share this on Facebook as well so we can get everybody back over. We had tons of people on the other one, and I hate to lose them and get down into like a dozen or more on this time, such as life, I guess. I guess the sun will rise. And by the way, also, get this. Some of you know that I had to live in a temporary place while my apartment was being renovated. Tomorrow is big moving day. 3rd time I've been told this. I got a call on the way over to the studio. Hey, yeah, it's not ready tomorrow. Thanks for the 24 hours notice. So, yeah, I'm ready to flip tables a little bit. Mutation asks if Jack Johnson is growing on me yet. Mutation, you should know me better than that. I've been the one pushing Jack Johnson on everyone else since June 27th or 28th when it looked like he was actually going to sign. In fact, I'll be on ESPN Radio today, so catch me at 6:20. Wes Euler is hosting today, and he is having me on. I know he wants to ask me about my Jack Johnson stuff. Let's get into X's and O's, if you don't mind waiting for the trade talk, okay? I do want to get to Blueger, the Penguins lines, and the trade talk. Let me get into X's and O's because I think that's the most important foundation for where we're going next, right? X's and O's. I thought the Penguins in the first 25 to 30 minutes did a lot of good things against Edmonton. Now, except for Connor McDavid being able to race through the Penguins. Let's table that because he's Connor freaking McDavid. The Penguins got the puck low. They played with it to a certain moderate degree with a little bit of moderate success. I don't think they were as heavy or as applied as much pressure to the Oilers' defense as they could have, but their forecheck, especially the third and the fourth lines, especially Blueger and McCann, Cullen and Zach Aston Reese, they got after it in the Edmonton zone. And if you want to talk about Cullen playing a great game, there is where it was. Aston Reese as well. McCann has some real hops, as obviously does Teddy Blueger. There's, I thought, where the Penguins' success came from. In the first half of the game, in terms of scoring chances and in terms of Corsi, the Penguins were well below in their top 2 lines. Now, as the game wore on, Sidney Crosby and Jake Gensel and Brian Rust began to neutralize that advantage for the Oilers. However, in terms of X's and O's, the second line of the Penguins, with Bukestad and Kessel and whoever they want to put on the left wing, that was just a nightmare. It was nothing less than a nightmare last night. And that really makes 2 of the last 3 times that they've played together. I don't know how to judge Kessel in Philadelphia just yet. But there's just far too many games that Phil Kessel takes off. And this relates to the X's and O's because the Penguins really, when they say they need 20 guys to commit, they really do. You can't have a deadline if you're trying to play simple, grinding hockey. You need to come in waves. And that's what the Penguins are trying to set up. It's what they're desperately trying to do. Get the fourth line, get the puck in deep, roll it around a little bit, get that top line on for the big chance. That's as simple and traditional hockey as you get, and that's what the Penguins are trying to do. When the second line, or Bukestad and Kessel on the third line, when you've got this dead spot that just gets dominated, it wrecks the flow. Now the next line, let's say the fourth line, has to come back into the defensive zone where they're probably going to have to roll around back there and fight for the puck. Then that means the first line. So you have this cyclical thing. So let me get to a lot of your questions and comments now that I'm kind of laying the foundation here. Hey, everyone, sees and hear me. We did it. Jim says, I see far too many wide-open guys and odd man rushes. I don't think the D is playing well. Jim, don't lay all of that on the defenseman. Especially last night, the D, and in Philadelphia too, the defensemen were back. It's the forwards that really have dropped the ball. Now, McDavid's a little bit of a special case. His breakaway last night, which spawned the penalty shot, Jake Gensel was with him at, just before the red line. By the time McDavid entered, got the blue line, he had a step and a half on Gensel. And that's not because Gensel wasn't skating. It's because McDavid is just that quick. His speed surprised Letang, who was also back. Letang had taken one angle, and McDavid was able to exploit and get behind Letang as well. You can kind of blame somebody for that, or you just... remember how many times Crosby used to do that to folks when he was really younger? And the other team would say, oh, we have to do this, we have to do that. And the reality was Crosby was just that much better. And Connor McDavid is that much better than everyone right now. Just got a text from Shelly Anderson. Evgeny Malkin spoke at practice. So we'll have that on the website, PittsburghHockeyNow.com. So let's kind of dive into the Penguins lineup a little bit. I know you want to get into this. Teddy Blueger should not come out of the lineup. I can't promise you that in 3 or 4 weeks. Maybe the kid hits a slump. But the way he is playing, what he is capable of, leave Teddy Blueger in the lineup. No ifs, no ands, no buts about it. Because, look, what you saw last night, Jared McCann has had his lunch eaten over the last week or two as the Penguins' third-line center. It's just statistic. It's eye test. Whatever line McCann has centered has not been productive, at least for any significant stretch of time. With Teddy Blueger last night, they were jumping beans. They were just little firecrackers all over the ice. Here's a Blueger, actually, I think is older. Yeah, Blueger's older than Jared McCann. That doesn't so much matter, I guess. It's interesting a little bit to me, but they were all over Edmonton. Lock those two together. Let those two be the crazy kids with their youthful enthusiasm and that spark. Let them go. Just send them on the forecheck and see what comes of it. Heck, even Phil Kessel might be a beneficiary on the right wing of those two. Let him snipe a couple of the turnovers that they create. Certainly interesting, although Patrick Hornquist was causing some havoc around the net last night. He didn't get to play with the puck too much. That's something that I might consider, putting a bit more of a scorer on that line to finish the garbage those two create, and they will create a good bit. So Teddy Blueger goes in, right? I think we all kind of agree on that. Zach Aston Reese is another guy. I know a lot of the female fans want to see that picture, so there you go. It's Valentine's Day, my little gift to you. I couldn't buy you chocolates or roses, so I'll put up Zach Aston Reese's picture. Obviously, it was kind of funny yesterday talking to Aston Reese, and I asked him if he would hesitate to fight or think twice about fighting. And as he's talking, he starts flexing his hand. He kind of starts going like this. I'll pull up, his hand was obviously down at his side. He kind of starts going like this. Well, for the next couple weeks, I have to think twice about it. What Aston Reese brings to that bottom six is such a step forward from what they've had. The Penguins could again deploy that fourth line against Edmonton's top line last night and get Crosby a rest from trying to guard McDavid. So Zach Aston Reese has to be in the lineup. Now we start getting to what you take out of the lineup, right? Hey, Daniel, cheers from South America, Brazil, right? I've got to get down to see you all. In fact, maybe I'll do so. What's the weather in Brazil like in July? Is it bearable? Southern Hemisphere, it's winter, right? But Zach Aston Reese, lock Blueger and Zach Aston Reese in there. That is what the Penguins' identity is, and it's what they've been searching for. They have it. Now, here's where we get into it. If Mike Sullivan actually has the courage to break hockey dogma, tradition, and scratch somebody who deserves it, but maybe makes a lot of money. Tanner Pearson, again, no shots last night. Phil Kessel only had one shot last night, and it was outside the blue line. That's how bad that second line was. But I'm hard-pressed to find reasons to keep Tanner Pearson in the lineup right now. They really like what Garrett Wilson brings. I'm a Wilson supporter. You know me. I like my grinders. And he's been a guy who just keeps it simple. I think he keeps that line grounded. I think he keeps all of the lines he's on grounded. I haven't seen much contribution, be it with the puck or away from the puck, from Tanner Pearson. So let me get back to the chat board here. Zach, do you see Riikola with the Pens past this contract year? If so, can he be a consistent lower pairing D? What does his short-term projection look like? Okay, a lot to unpack there, Zach. First of all, Riikola, because he's an actual rookie, but he's old enough, he can only sign a one-year ELC. He will be a restricted free agent this summer. I would not be surprised at all to see the Penguins give him a very Jamie Alexiak type contract, 3 years at 1.6 or 2.1, kind of, 2.1 maybe seems a bit high. 3 years, 1.6, 1.8, and you've got a cheap defenseman that you can really count on to keep growing. That's my prognosis for Riikola longer term. In the very short term, he keeps improving. I like the way he played against Philadelphia, despite the bombardment. I liked some of the things I saw last night. He and Johnson had some good moments, although Riikola also struggled, too. It's going to happen. I don't want to put too much into one game and tell you, oh, this is going to happen or that's going to happen. Let's see against Calgary. Let's see him going forward as we get into some of these Metro Division battles where he's playing with Jack Johnson, maybe not being shepherded as much by Olli Maatta. Let's see how it goes. Then, we're going to know a bit more about Juuso Riikola. Coach Bombay is my hero. I will never, ever watch the Ducks. Never. It's offside. The flying V is offside. All right, Daniel. Oh, yeah, July is winter in Brazil. That means 20 degrees Celsius. That's what, like 45, 50 Fahrenheit? Medina says she wants to take Kessel by the shoulders, shake him, and yell, "What the hell is going on with you and why?" Realize this. If we took away Kessel's blue line shot last night, from literally outside the blue line, he would have 0 shots in 5 of his last 7 games. That's... And I don't know that he's had multiple shots in any of those 7. Really, I've been holding my fire on Kessel. I really have. Because Kessel is not a guy who delivers a lot of extra things, intangibles to your team to help them win if he's not scoring. He's got to score. Or, at very least, he's got to play well and create chances. Kessel isn't. He just genuinely isn't. I don't know why. Even when he was put back with Malkin, just wasn't happening. Let's see here. 20 degrees Celsius is 68 Fahrenheit. That might be a pretty good July trip. Maybe August. Yeah, get the heck out of here in August, huh? Oh, Eric showed up. See, this guy, Eric Leonard, here on the live chat, that's Evil Pens. This is a guy who just really has no life. He just trolls everyone and everything and gets in fights on message boards and says awful things to people. Yes, I thought Brian Boyle's a third-line center. So does Nashville. So did New Jersey. But you're right, Eric. Moving away. What did I think of Murray's performance? Ryan asks. Blocked 88 of 90 shots in the last 2 games. Will he start versus Calgary, then to Smith, New York this weekend, or the other way around? Generally speaking, you play your number 1 goalie at home in that first game. You go for that first 2 points, and then you let whatever happens on the road happen. That's just the dogma of the situation. So, yeah, I think Murray will go, especially with 2 days in between games. Murray goes against Calgary. DeSmith will go on Broadway. Medina doesn't like me smacking the trolls around. I thought I was being nice, Medina. Murray's penalty stop on McDavid, do you think it helped boost his confidence? When he's confident, he's at his best. You know what? I've actually got a video. I'm glad you asked, Aaron. Here. Just the first few seconds of this is all we're going to need. Watch Matt Murray's reaction. Jonathan Bomboli asked him that very question. Man, you made a glove save on Connor McDavid on a penalty shot. You know, you had to maybe pound your chest or feel pretty good about it. Here we go. Here's Matt Murray answering that.
Special satisfaction when you got to go shoot at your glove and you shut it down.
I don't care, man. I don't care. Try to make saves.
How does the pregame video work? Did you help you out in a situation like that, knowing?
So there we go, right? Man, I'm just trying to stop pucks. That's Matt Murray, and that was me adjusting my camera position to get under people and get a better shot of Matt Murray. That's the Murray I think a lot of fans would like to see a bit more, and I will certainly make an attempt to humanize Matt Murray whenever possible. I think we've tried a couple stories like that this season. He's a sharp cookie. I enjoy Matt Murray, even when he's being stoic. There's almost a certain humor to it. I can't explain it. If you ask him a dumb question, he will give you a dumb answer, and I like that. Let's see here. Yeah, Murray's stop made me so happy. Brian says it was a glove side, huge sigh of relief. Let me hit one point on that Matt Murray thing for you, Brian. There were some people who were like, "Oh, he shot it right into Murray's glove." Well, first of all, no, it doesn't quite work that way. Why do you think a goalie doesn't hold his glove up here? Right? Beaver County Auto. What is, there were some schools of thought for some time. A goalie would hold his glove up here to protect against that corner. But no, Murray keeps it down there. So it's just a little flick. More shots will go down there, just a little flick. And then you pull it up, you do the big windmill like he did the other night and got the whistle when the puck trickled behind him. That's just good technique. It wasn't right into his glove by accident. That's Murray doing his job. Although Pearson is a serviceable NHLer, it would be wise to shed the contract due to production. What would GM JR need to attach to it, make him appealing? What kind of return could it bring? That's really $1 million question, isn't it, Zach? I guess we're going to see, you're getting me into the trade stuff already. And we're only 22 minutes into this. But really, it would come down to finding a general manager who saw the younger the younger Tanner Pearson and said, that's the guy I want. Whatever Tanner Pearson has shown up this year for the LA Kings and this month plus stretch for the Pittsburgh Penguins, it's not the Tanner Pearson I know. It's not the Tanner Pearson I watched in Los Angeles. It's not the kid that my guys in LA told me that that Pittsburgh was getting. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. When a guy loses confidence, and that's maybe what we should start to wonder aloud. When a guy loses confidence, it can really snowball and spiral. I would put Pearson in the press box for a couple games, and that's when Sullivan can really use the psychology that he likes to use on players and say, we're just unplugging you. Unplug, reset. You're going back in this game. Get ready. You've got a week. Run with Aston Reese and Blueger and Garrett Wilson. And then when Pearson is set to return that 1 week later, or 4 or 5 days, whatever it might be, then I think you take Garrett Wilson out of the lineup and we see what Pearson's got. I think you've got to leave Blueger in. By the way, Mike Sullivan last night had to concede that Blueger's made a real strong case for himself. It's like, you think? McCann is the Dupuis of the Bukestad trade, but we get to keep Hossa this time. If Bukestad turned into anything close to what Marian Hossa was, I think the Penguins would be ecstatic. Brian, I wrote on trade day, don't sleep on McCann. I don't think he's there yet. And this is just, I see good things from McCann. I see a toolbox with a lot of tools in it. I see a lot of growth ahead of him. Is he the Penguins' best option for a third-line center today? I don't think so. I still think that's Bukestad. But then again, if you're going to roll Blueger and McCann for a third line, maybe I could be swayed to it. I think in the next year and 2 years, you're going to see a Jared McCann that he becomes that Pascal. That's a great call, by the way, Brian. Just a kind of maybe the second guy in the trade that all of a sudden really does a lot of damage for you for a long time. Pearson is vanilla. Yeah. Pearson is not a vanilla player, though, Jim. Why he's playing vanilla is a huge question. S22, Pearson needs to play with Malkin, Kessel again. That's when he played well. Well, he did and he didn't, S22. Don't forget, he was slotted there originally. He had a couple big moments, a lot of goals in a short amount of time. But then he went ice cold, too. So Malkin Kessel isn't necessarily the cure-all. And also, there's a lot of guys who could score beside Malkin and Kessel if you get those two clicking. I think Zach Aston Reese could spend some time there. I also think Teddy Blueger could. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Let Blueger play that Hagelin role. Wouldn't that just be something to watch? Shevitz says Blueger should definitely stay. Absolutely. So let me get into the NHL trade market, and I think I forgot to load up the photos of the some of the guys I wanted to talk about, Kasperi Kapanen included. So let's get to the trade deal. In fact, I'll pull it up on here, and we can just I'll pull up my laptop screen. You can see all the windows I've got open. By the way, if you haven't checked out PittsburghHockeyNow.com, here's all the fun stuff you're missing. Bob McKenzie, I think, is a day or two behind, as he said, well, the Penguins are feeling things out. Didn't expect the Penguins to do much. Had a little bit of a chat with Nick Bukestad yesterday. Just an offhanded joke I made, and I had several other questions I wanted to ask him. We started talking about driving in the snow. Now, he's from Minnesota, but, new experience for him. And, of course, a bit of an analysis. The Penguins have given up 90 shots in the last two games to two non-playoff teams. And last night, there's such a negative scoring chance ratio. They were outchanced 29-21 against Edmonton. Edmonton, a team that had lost 16 of 22 after last night, lost 17 of 23. Let me, there's PHN Extra as well. Let me get to, trying to find the, there we go. There's the trade targets. And I'll just real briefly mention Kasperi Kapanen, because he was one of the guys I put on the list. Very difficult to get him out of Toronto. There's no two ways about it. The Carolina Hurricanes have been kicking around on Kapanen all season, and they haven't been able to do it. So what's that tell you? Well, first of all, Toronto doesn't want to deal Kapanen, nor should they. What's he got? 16 goals, 17 assists at this point, 22 years old, can skate like the wind. However, they can't afford everybody next year. People have to go. Salary has to go, and Kapanen's going to be an RFA. If a team like the Penguins came along and put their first-round draft pick on the table, plus, doesn't Toronto have to listen? Say, wait a second. That's just me speculating now. But I do see a way it could happen. It would hurt. The Penguins would feel a pinch if they could get it done. But it's something most certainly to consider. Another name that I'd mentioned on that trade piece last night, wingers to keep an eye out. And bear in mind, one of my first criteria was, in fact, salary. The Penguins have hundreds of thousands of dollars in cap room, not millions. Generally, they're $400,000 to $500,000 under the cap. Maybe with some of these injuries, closer to $600,000, but let's just say $500,000. So they're not going to be able to get a $3 or $4 million winger without sending $3 or $4 million out. Who would you trade at this point? Sure, you could maybe find a taker for Tanner Pearson, free up that 3.75, but you'll have to send an asset with Pearson, most likely. I don't know that somebody would take on Pearson and that money without asking for more in return. So there's kind of what do you do beyond that, right? Alex Chiasson. Alex Chiasson. Former fourth-line grinder, press box guy in Washington. He's 28 now. He's finding a way to score. Tell me you noticed him several times last night. Just a hulking guy. And he put some pressure on the Penguins. He went to the net. He put pressure on the Penguins in the slot, and he looked pretty good going to the net on the power play, too. He's a 28-year-old, $650,000 winger who can do a little bit of crashing and banging. He doesn't have a lot of hits, but he's strong. A bit in the Bukestad model, maybe a little grittier than Bukestad. But all of the optics line up. The Penguins want to be tougher. The Penguins want to play down low. The Penguins have no money. He fits very well. And certainly Edmonton would be foolish to say, no, we won't trade him when he's an unrestricted free agent to be. And if they can turn that into an asset, he's got 17 goals, 10 assists this season. Ryan acknowledges, I know you don't like Kessel with Malkin, but maybe those two with ZAR would be a good combo. How do I put this? Yes, Zach Aston Reese has actually looked pretty good. I think they've tried that a few times, Ryan, or they've kind of gone to it in short bursts, perhaps. So much of any Phil Kessel analysis should begin and end with the phrase, if Kessel wants, or if Kessel decides, if Kessel plays well. Kessel decides if that line would work or if that line doesn't. I don't know how else to spin it for you. If Kessel plays well and gets motivated, and motivated is not the right word. I apologize for using that. If Kessel gets into the flow and he gets into it, and has the hops, and he's letting that wrist shot fly, then that line could work because Aston Reese can get the puck. There's a lot of guys who could take that left wing and be a decent puck retrieval person. Is it me, or has Marcus Pettersson totally crashed back to earth after a strong 20-game start with the team? It's not you, Jim. Pettersson has been pedestrian for a while. He was burnt pretty well in Toronto several times. Now, of course, it was Jack Johnson's fault. But yes, Pettersson, I think Pettersson was the 7th D if Olli Mata were still healthy, and Schultz comes back here real soon. Okay, so additional trade, So Bob McKenzie says that the Penguins are just feeling things out. We've heard whispers off the wall the Penguins would like another winger and are looking at some defensemen as well, especially with this Mata situation. Sullivan declined last night to say 1 month. When asked, he very well could have confirmed Josh Yohe's reporting in The Athletic. Don't doubt Josh. That was not the intent of my statement. Sullivan could have confirmed it. He didn't. I think a separated shoulder is maybe a bit longer than 4 weeks, unless it's very mild. Maybe some of you who have suffered that injury, especially on a surgically repaired shoulder. 4 weeks seemed optimistic to me. It very well could be into April, getting into playoff time. And then, is this not the dumbest thing? The NHL doesn't have a salary cap in the playoffs. For the life of me, I cannot figure out the reasoning to that rule. So let's just say Mata is going to come back April 15th. The Penguins could legitimately put him on the long-term IR, recoup that money, get right up to the cap, or gets right up to the cap, then put him on IR. So they've got about $4 million prorated to spend. And then the Penguins would have a roster that's well above the salary cap in the playoffs, and that would be just totally cool. I never understood that. That's insanity. Looks like someone's trying to spam us here. So we're going to... Let me just... Yep, that's spam. And let me remove. There we go. That wasn't hard. I like doing that. That felt good to get rid of a spammer, you know? But let's maybe chat about this guy, because you want to talk about someone who could really help the Penguins. And if you know a reason that Kessel has kind of gone in the tank, you're ahead of me. I scratch my head. And to say that I don't like Kessel would be unfair. Ryan and everyone else on the chat. To say I don't like Kessel, that would be unfair, because I don't have personal opinions that you know of on a lot of these guys. I don't care if they're the biggest jerk on the planet. I'm going to analyze their play. I'm going to analyze their play, the effect on the team, so on and so forth. There was a player who kind of gave me a bit of a blow off a couple weeks ago. I still gave him high marks. Defended, a couple of his plays in the following days. That's my job. Any personality thing, and actually, Phil Kessel's great for my business. I don't want to see the Penguins trade him, because when he talks, this YouTube channel gets 1,000 clicks like that. 1,000 people watch the video, and it goes viral when Phil Kessel talks. So I'm quite happy if the Penguins keep him around. I make money on it. But he's got to produce. And so much of the Penguins' outlook depends on where Kessel will play. That second line with Malkin, which I really don't like, because I think the temptation for those two is too great. The temptation for them is so great, they start playing sideways, they start playing cute. It's fun to them. One draws the other off his game, the other draws the other off his game, and before you know it, they're both in the tank. And to tell you the truth, the only third-line center that Kessel wasn't bad with, I had high hopes for Bukestad. I'm now leaning towards doubt on that, just because there's been a couple bad games in a row, those two, center and wing. Riley Sheahan, it was quiet. It wasn't good enough, but there was a certain control. It kept Kessel within his game, and Kessel actually produced some offense beside Riley Sheahan without kind of causing any chaos, drama, etc. I think it's possible. Let's see here. I had some other stuff. And I don't worry about this guy. I don't worry about Evgeny Malkin. Just for point of comparison, everyone, take a look at the 5 of the last 6 games without Evgeny Malkin. And for all of us, me included, Malkin included, who were wondering if he was struggling, or think of how much better Malkin's struggles are than almost every other center in the NHL playing well. Malkin still affects the game. He still affects everything. And even in a lot of positive ways. Malkin does it. There's another picture of Gino for you. And here's the new live cam. Hey, look, here's the... There we are. So where else you want to go on this here live Penguins chat? It is 1:30. And the office building that we rent space in for the studio and the offices of Pittsburgh Hockey Now has free pizza downstairs. I want to make sure I get my slices on, too. Yeah, Malkin does seem frustrated. Oh, there's no question about it. He will be fine. I hated when he swung that stick. I knew it. The minute he did it, you just knew. You know, there is one thing I was going to talk about on Tuesday we didn't get into before all hell broke loose with dead batteries in the pack. And that is Mike Sullivan making these big sweeping changes. He got Malkin back. He flips Kessel to left wing to put Bukestad on right, to put McCann at third line center. He left Blueger out on Tuesday night. All of these big changes. Mike Sullivan, I believe, has great worry about his team, about their mental makeup, about their mindset right now, about their stick-to-itiveness, to use his word, about their resiliency, about their status and place in the game. Sullivan has been trying to shake them up. And like a mad scientist, he's been doing everything he can. It goes to a little bit of desperation. And I don't know that it's a bad thing. You can see the glass as half full or half empty. You can say Sullivan is desperate with all of these changes, or you can see it as half full, in so much as the Penguins can do these kinds of things. They've got such a flexible roster, and they're trying to find those combinations, because once this all clicks, when they get the Rubik's Cube together, they can hang with anybody. Look, they hung with Tampa Bay. It was concerning they needed a pair of 4-on-4 goals. It was concerning that they didn't do better at a 5-on-5 clip, but they also didn't have Malkin, and Tampa Bay was at full strength. You have to figure in a playoff match, Tampa may not be 100% healthy, and the Penguins would indeed have Evgeny Malkin back. So that 5-4 Penguins loss could have been a little bit different. I think the Penguins want to see them again. I think the Penguins wouldn't mind that playoff matchup. Though I don't know if you want to see them in the first round. You might find yourself on the golf course before the end of April. Jared posits this. What about Bukestad on the left wing, Malkin, and Hornquist? Bukestad's a righty, and he's only played wing for a year or so, and he's only played right wing. I don't know that, well, what the heck? I guess you put Kessel on the left wing. So, Jared, I can't dismiss it out of hand. However, that line doesn't have a lot of speed on it. That line is a bit plodding. I don't know that line would have a lot of spark to it. What about 53, 19, 81? Blueger, McCann, Kessel. Yep, Jared, if you weren't with us a little bit earlier, that was exactly what I had perhaps suggested that the Penguins take a look at, too. Last night it was Hornquist on that line in place of Kessel. I love the spark of the young kids. I think maybe a playmaker, a finisher like Kessel would get a few opportunities from the turnovers that the kids create on the forecheck. Let them chip it in and go get it, and Kessel can be the great white shark swooping in, or I should say lurking and getting that puck and snapping a few past the goaltender, although he would actually have to shoot the puck. Kessel has, he's got to. Kessel has to shoot the puck. All right. I think that's just about going to do her for us. I want to appreciate everybody jumping on. Last call for questions. You can drive the ship from here on in, because I think I've gotten to everything that I wanted to get to. I haven't done my homework on potential defensemen. Again, I go back to watch Anaheim. Watch Anaheim and the Penguins. I haven't seen any scouts for either lately, so maybe the little bit of smoke we caught wind of a month ago has dissipated, that would certainly make sense. But Anaheim could be convinced to do something. There's no question about that. And they've got a couple pieces that could make the Penguins better. There was a part of me, when I wrote my wingers to take a look at, there was a part of me that wanted to include Corey Perry. Just for the pure imagination of it. And that's what it would be. It would be just fantastical insanity. He's owed about $8 million over the next couple years. And anyway, no, would never happen. Never, ever possible. Don't even say that I said it could happen. It couldn't. It wouldn't happen. But it's one of those things you like to, in your own mind. We all do it. We all spitball, even if we all can't admit it, right? There are a couple defensemen out there that I'm taking a look at, and I want to make a few more phone calls. I want to do a bit more research before I do that sort of publishing. Let's see here. Tom Wilson eats urinal cakes. Caps fans still don't like the number one power play unit the way it is. Why not put 27 in front of the net? Love 72, but not effective right now. Tom Wilson, I think you're putting the cart before the horse, or you're blaming the cart for the horse. Hornquist doesn't make that first power play unit go. He finishes it. And if that first power play unit isn't generating anything, then Hornquist, by role, will not generate anything. So even if you put Bukestad there, if the other four guys, Letang, Malkin, Kessel, Crosby, aren't driving pressure, doesn't matter who is going to the net. Jake Guentzel, Nick Bukestad, Patrick Hornquist. I'm actually of the mindset to cut down on shorthanded chances. Jake Guentzel should replace Phil Kessel. I think that would add some responsibility to the power play. It would also add, Tom Wilson, if you put Jake Guentzel on that power play, it would add the potential for a lot of movement within the play. You could see Crosby come to the circle and Guentzel low. You could see Hornquist circle and cycle in and out. You could see four guys, a little bit interchangeable, moving around, creating that chaos, creating that movement. I think that could be very dangerous. I think that could be very successful. Kessel's not going to be a guy who goes to the net. He just isn't. So he kind of plants himself, heels into the ice in that circle. And teams will take their chances. The Penguins' power play was so good that teams decided it was better to take that gamble. Pressure Phil Kessel especially, than to see if the power play unit could beat them. Take your chances one-on-one against Phil Kessel. You'll win more of those battles than you'll win if you lay back and let them pick you clean. So I think that by moving Phil Kessel off that top unit, and I don't care if it would ruffle his feathers or not, and putting Guentzel there, suddenly you can't go at one guy. If the puck goes to Guentzel on the wall and they want to pressure Guentzel, well, fine. Crosby can fly over there and take that spot, and Guentzel can swing down low, and all of a sudden the defense is reacting again. Keep the defense reacting. Also, a few more shots on net wouldn't hurt. Simplify it a bit. Make the other team react to you instead of trying to find that open lane. Teams are wise to it. Barry Trotz, as he did last year with the Capitals, Barry Trotz was one of the architects this year to deconstruct the Penguins' power play. Trotz actually took Tom Kuhnhackl off the point of the penalty kill. Well, he kept them there on the ice, but he had Kuhnhackl soft play the Penguins' point, which took away the cross ice pass. And once the Islanders took away the Penguins' cross ice, they were lost. But, they knew what they wanted to do and they couldn't do it. That's what a good coach does. Trotz is a fantastic coach, and that's all part of the chess game, which Mike Sullivan does too. Don't get me wrong. I'm not insinuating that Trotz is better than Sullivan. I'm just saying Trotz has twice now in 2 seasons deconstructed the Penguins' power play, forcing them to make some changes. Drew, Radko Gudas is a small price for a right-handed D, and a right-handed guy might be slightly better version of Jack Johnson. Toronto has been sniffing around Radko. Drew, I don't know. The Penguins would essentially have to give up Jack Johnson to get Radko Gudas in here, and I don't know how you'd pull that off. Actually, let me rephrase that. I don't see how those two could be in the same lineup together. The Penguins would have the money for the remainder of this season, but I think at that point then, you've got an odd mix. And Riekela's off the right side because you've got Letang, Schultz. So Riekela's now playing. It's just that'd be too much chaos for me, Drew. Let's see here. Kessel would rather pass than shoot, and everyone knows it and plays accordingly. When did that happen? Sometime last year, Brian, that happened. Kessel really began to kind of chest thump his playmaking ability. Penn Stars never met a cross-ice pass they didn't like. This is true. Kessel for Panarin and Josh Anderson. Offer sheet Kapanen for $4 million in the summer. Well, yeah, the Penguins won't chase Artemi Panarin. But boy, it's about time a GM put on his big boy pants and began tossing some offer sheets around. What's it been, 5 years since anybody got an offer? And there have been some good RFAs on the market. 5 years. I mean, think about this. The Penguins hadn't offered Jamie Alexiak. Here is a 6'7", 255-pound defenseman who can put opponents through the glass, who had his best 3/4 of a season in his career, and no one sniffed around? No one made an offer? It's as close to collusion as you could possibly get. But it would be impossible to prove because it would be very easy to say, well, that's just hockey culture. Because once upon a time, Brian Burke threw such a nutty over Edmonton signing Dustin Penner. Or was it L.A. that signed Dustin Penner from L.A.? Yeah. L.A. Swiped Dustin Penner from Edmonton. And Burke threw such a fit over it that he really established a standard by which the GMs have to go by. I'd say to hell with it. I'm in that chair, and a guy makes sense to me, and I'm willing to pay the price, be it a first and a third, second, a boatload of picks. If it makes sense, do it. By the way, conspiracy theory. I don't know if you all follow too much of the Canadian media. There was a huge conspiracy theory that there was a rival GM laying in the weeds for Austin Matthews this summer. Now, of course, the Maple Leafs would have matched any deal Matthews would have gotten, but what he was going to do was offer Matthews 4 years, $12 million. Essentially, full market value, but by no time of free agency. So in 4 years, when that contract is over, Matthews would be a UFA. Knowing full well Toronto would match it and then be stuck, then have to really pay him again in 4 years. There was a conspiracy theory that there was somebody out there willing to do that. I guess we'll never know that Matthews signed. And some outlets, newspapers, magazines, should be careful on the reporters they send to cover a hockey press conference, because at that Austin Matthews press conference, somebody had the ignorance to ask Matthews, did anybody else make offers? Yeah, that drew groans, I think, from the entire room. Whoever asked it, I feel bad for them a little bit, because clearly they were chucked into a situation they weren't prepared for. Mark, CBJ isn't going to trade with the Penguins. That's mostly true, Mark, although the Penguins did just get Blake Siebenthaler, a depth defenseman from Columbus last week. And for those of you who pay attention to minor league hockey and kind of get into it, that Siebenthaler was a real interesting cat. He was a third-round pick 4 years ago. Or was it a second-round pick in 2014? 6'2", 210-pound defenseman who can skate like the wind. And the Penguins gave up at most a seventh-round pick for him. It was one of those, Wilkes-Barre Scranton, I know, has 2 extra defensemen already. Jeff Taylor is coming back. They were going to have 3 extra defensemen, and then they acquired Siebenthaler. But you get a guy that big who can skate that fast, I guess you take the chance, don't you? So it's not 100% true that the Pens and Columbus won't trade. It's just that, well, no, they don't really want to. Ian Cole, Drew was traded to Columbus, but he was sent to Ottawa first and languished up there for a few days, didn't bother unpacking. Ottawa let him know he's going to be traded to the highest bidder, and Columbus became the highest bidder. My boy Kyle's back. Kyle, I love your trade offers. Kessel for Tyler Myers and Kyle Connor, and Murray for Hellebuck. Kessel for Tyler Myers and Kyle Connor, and Murray for Hellebuck. So you're going to give up Phil Kessel and Matt Murray. You're going to get Tyler Myers back, who's really a back-pairing defenseman. Kyle Connor. Okay, I like Connor. Yeah. I don't know that I'd trade Murray for Hellebuck. I don't think I would. Kyle, I think Hellebuck had a great rebound year last year. So what do we think Kapanen's going to get? I like the argument going on the chat board right now. No, I don't think Kapanen gets more than $4 million per season, only because he's an RFA, and teams take advantage of that. $4 million seems about in the ballpark, although if he only winds up with, say, 40 points on the season, yeah, I guess I can see a Brian Rust-type contract. Although Rust signed for, 4 years, 13.5? A bit less than $4 million? Given Kapanen's pedigree, maybe he makes a bit more than Brian Rust, and he gets around for. But, yeah, you're not going to... I say this... I don't think you see more than $4 million in the summer for Kapanen. Yeah, and if they do, you guys are exactly right on the chat board. If they do pay Kapanen more than $4 million, they really have to get rid of pieces, more than one. Sure, they'd like to get rid of Nylander, who's making $10 million. Would you take on Nylander for $10 million? I do believe I would have let him sit at that price. Or, actually, I would have traded him and let some other team pay that price. Some other news today as well I didn't get to yet. Arizona, just that hole is getting deeper for the Arizona Coyotes franchise. Their president was on the radio trying to clean things up, and the more he tried to clean things up, the deeper the hole got. Essentially, he had to indirectly admit that there's no fan base there, that they have to create a fan base. They've got to create the youth hockey. They've got to go through all of these steps with a new arena to resurrect the market. At some point, or I should say, at what point do you just cut bait and say, okay, it didn't work? if you're going to go through this entire rebuild process of the community and an arena, just go to Houston. You've got a better chance of success. Whenever a restaurant fails in one location, have you ever noticed, it's like a Seinfeld episode, other restaurants come in and try it in that same location, it just becomes a spot of failure. It just doesn't work. And I think Arizona is pretty close to that, because even if Arizona went whole hog and flung themselves with giant gobs of money into this, for so long it's been so irrelevant. What would it take? Would a Stanley Cup run resurrect the fan base? I mean, they had one, it was 2012, and people showed up for the playoffs. They got all geeked and excited when they went to the conference final, but they didn't come back the next year. I think that's about what, I think that's just about where Arizona is. And Houston had a great American Hockey League franchise, the Houston Aeros. Successful, profitable. And for years, the NHL looked at Houston. But the owner of those AHL Aeros had a lock on the arena. And he said, hell no. No, NHL's not coming in here. I'm making money with the AHL, and you can just stay out. A lot like the Buffalo Bisons. What is it, the Rich family up in Buffalo? I don't think they still own it, do they? The AAA baseball team? When there was talk of putting a Major League Baseball team in Buffalo, Buffalo had the best AAA stadium in the country, and the Rich family was making money, and they, never publicly said no. But that was just kind of the general, everyone knew that they had no reason to chase a major league team and lose the little crown jewel that they had. Houston was that way for a long time as well. Now it's no longer. Now Houston is open. That's why you're seeing these talks, and it wouldn't even cause any realignment. Just do it. Get it over with. Get it done with. Rick Tocchet has done yeoman's work with that team. They are scrappy. They are gritty. They come back. They fight to the end of the game. They use every ounce of speed and tenacity that they've got. They really do emulate Tocchet in that way. And if they had another player or two, they'd be real playoff contenders instead of just in that logjam of mediocrity. All right, the NES Addict wants a bag of pucks along with that Winnipeg trade. By the way, Winnipeg had their director of scouting in last night. That's probably the third time this season I've seen him. Perhaps I just assumed he was there to see Edmonton. Chiasson would certainly fit with Winnipeg's style. I don't think Winnipeg needs any more wingers. So perhaps he was, I don't know what he could have been checking. Maybe he was going to try that McDavid feller. See what he costs. All right, kids. Final call. We've actually gone over an hour. That's insane. I appreciate y'all. In fact, over an hour. I'm going to make this a podcast. It'll be on Podbean and iTunes. So look for No Pucks Given. It'll be on the website as well if you joined us late. So I've had a blast. Hopefully you've had a blast once we got those opening technical difficulties all straightened out, once we found the stream. And the neighbors heard me, I just pitched a fit when YouTube wouldn't let me cross the streams. That would be bad. Very bad. Hey, Z Smooth, you got here like 2 minutes ago. Sorry, brother. You'll have to watch it. So do me a favor, like, comment, share, do whatever you can to spread the word about PittsburghHockeyNow.com and Pittsburgh Sports Live. We do appreciate every single subscriber on the channel and every click on the website, because I'm about to have my 5th best month ever here in February, and it's February 14th. That's how much our traffic is growing on the hockey side. I've got a couple new writers, Michael R. Doomer and Sam Anthony. Sam was a former intern with the Penguins. He wrote the postgame last night. Michael wrote the Bob McKenzie story on the website this morning, and Michael's been writing the pregame. We're bringing them along slowly. We're not just dropping them into the fire. Bring them along slowly. Yes, we are paying them. No one works for free at Pittsburgh Hockey Now. This isn't a blog. We are a credentialed media outlet. We take that very seriously. In fact, we want to be more credentialed. I know that's not really a phrase, but we look forward to the day when we can become an established beat outlet, guys on the road, guys and gals on the road, etc. We're working towards that every single day, and hopefully we get there. Okay, kids, have fun. I will talk to you soon. I guess next week after the first Penguins game, we'll do a live chat that following day at 12:30, pending the Penguins practice. Until we talk again, have fun.